Welcome to the final instalment of today's lesson, where we'll be looking at the other answers that you sometimes get from these. Everything we've done so far has been set up nicely to give us a whole positive number answer. The whole point of solving and the whole point of maths is we're developing skills that can be used in solving real world situations. And unfortunately, the real world isn't often as nice as maths teachers try to make it. So solving equations will more often than not give you negatives, fractions, any range of things that aren't just nice positive whole numbers. So we need to be able to we need to be familiar with these answers coming up in our questions and how to deal with them. So I've got two examples to look through to give you the rough idea. First of these is a basic two-step equation. Like the first section, we follow exactly the same steps, and that's the important thing in this. Nothing changes. We don't know that the answer is going to be negative or fractional until we get to the end. So there's no reason to do anything different, but people often get worried because they can see that something different is going to happen. We just follow the same steps as always. So first thing is the plus 18 we want to deal with. So we're going to subtract 18 from both sides, doing the opposite to both sides. You can guess how everything's going to be laid out. We line up our equal sign, we line up our x's, and remember that 6 take away 18 gives us minus 12. So we've got a negative in there. From there, same as before, we look at our 6x. We need to split this up, so the 6 is multiplying, we do the opposite to both sides, we divide by 6, leaving us with x is equal to minus 2. Now none of the steps have changed there. That's exactly what we'd have done if that was going to give us a positive answer. We've worked through it in the same way, it's just that the number at the end has come out as being a negative. Let's have another look at this one. Here we've got one where we've got letters on both sides, so we work through the same process as before. We look for the smallest amount of our letter. Remember, when there's letters on both sides, it's always the smallest amount we want. So the 2x is smaller, so we're going to subtract 2x from both sides in order to cancel that out, leaving us with 5x plus 6 equals 22. The 6 and the 22 aren't affected as they don't have any x's on. Carrying on as before, we now have a plus 6 we need to sort out, so we subtract 6 from both sides, leaving us with 5x equals 16. Finally, we need to divide by 5, so divide by 5 on both sides leaves us with x equals 16 over 5. Now, we can't do 16 divided by 5 and get a whole number answer, so you have three options. The best option, in my opinion, and when you have to deal with more complicated maths, is to leave it as a top-heavy fraction, 16 over 5. The second option is to change it to a decimal. Now, that's not too bad here, because it comes out as an exact decimal. This comes out as 3.2. But in a lot of cases, if you're dividing by 3 or 7, something like that, you're going to end up with a recurring decimal or an inexact decimal. So that's why a top-heavy fraction is better. The third option, which is least favourable in terms of doing more maths, is to change that to a mixed number, as 5 goes into 16 3 times. We'd be left with 3 and 1/5. Now, as I said, that is the least helpful when we come to doing more maths with that number in future situations. So that's why I suggest just leaving it as a top-heavy fraction. The other advantage of a top-heavy fraction is that's what you naturally end up with, and so there's less chance of making a mistake. If you do have a fraction and you are leaving it as a fraction, make sure you cancel it down to its simplest form. it's not good to leave a fraction that can be simplified unsimplified. That's it for this lesson. As I say, any questions, make sure you ask. Anything you're not clear about, look through the video again or any of the videos to see if they help. If you need to copy down any examples, pause the videos and get them written down. Now get on with the final section, section D, and try and do at least one from each line, but I suggest doing several from each line on that section.